Hi, my name is Dale, and this is a continuation of the case study of this game I'm designing. This is a strategy game where players are supposed to be building these kind of RPG characters. They run around the map and they fight each other, they trade with each other, they get resources, get stronger, etc. Now, I'll quickly recap what I went over in the previous video, which is I started out with this big map, and one of the main problems was that players would spend so much time moving across the map that by the time they got to where they wanted to go, an hour has passed. So in order to solve that, I made the map a lot more concise, made it just one movement to go anywhere, and yeah, made it just a lot easier. So that kind of solves this problem of skipping to the good part. So we'll get rid of that. Now, there was a bunch of different resources in this game. There was gold, favor, secrets, relics, a lot of stuff. A bit too many, that's why I put this here. But yeah, player really enjoyed getting, gold especially, and spending it on upgrades. So, could get that. The problem with this, however, is that players had these cards where, they would have to move to places and start fights and do this stuff with each other. And unfortunately, even though there wasn't much space, and there wasn't too many objectives or actions they could do, they still avoided conflict and trade with each other regardless, because they wanted to be non-confrontational and they wanted kind of path of least resistance. So in order to solve this, I had to really rethink this game. So I'm gonna get rid of this for a sec. This is an updated map, so it looks a lot like the old one, but there's a few big differences. The first one is there are these two different relics per location. These are the relics. So this would kind of feed into that players wanting to get resources and spend it. Players would go and they have to now get matching pairs, so a blank red and an X red in order to spend it to get upgrades. Players really like this, having to go to different places in order to get the proper pairs. That was very nice. But the main thing that changed here, the main solution, was that now players have these cards where they all choose simultaneously where they want to go. They choose one location on the map, put it face down, and then we go through the locations one by one and they flip it. If they arrive at a location, then they have to either fight or trade. And again, they choose one of these face down and flip it and see how that resolves. What this does is, it now isn't up to the players to play these kinds of cards to start a fight. Now the fights and the trades will happen automatically. And so this helps drive players into conflict and trade, whether they like it or not. This removes some non-play because you have to go somewhere. It helps solve a lot of problems. And you can still use strategy to kind of avoid fights or get into fights or trades that you want by observing maybe what runes a player has to decide where, or to deduce where they're probably going to go. In order to replace these kinds of cards that had players choosing what actions they wanted to do with them, players now buy these kinds of cards, which give a more constant passive effect, which allows them to now choose what kind of playstyle they want to do throughout the game, and then they just draw their hand, they kind of dump it on the field, and then they choose their location. That helps speed up the game a lot, and it just helps, again, force that interaction. And as I said, I went with only these runes. There's only this one type of currency now. I got rid of all of the others. There's only one, so we can get rid of this. And we're left with our original motivations here. And now the problem I'm currently facing with this is that it doesn't offer a lot of long-term strategy. Players decide what kind of deck they want to build, what kind of character they want to build. They decide where they want to go and whether they want to fight or trade, and they try to avoid certain players or target certain players. And yeah, there's actions you can take on the map based on where you go, but there isn't really a lot of long-term strategy. I did add some of these in order to add a little bit. So that's like, it's a contest over the course of the game. So if you won the most fights, you get that. Or if you did the most trades, if you ended your turn with full effort, which is kind of your the resource you used for fights or stuff. So there are these kinds of side objectives or main objectives or whatever they are really that you can go for over the course of the game, but it still isn't really driving much interesting long-term strategy. It's still a lot of turn by turn strategy, and it has been a lot of fun for the players. I've gotten 2 play tests in, and people do really like trying to predict where players are going, trying to do, you know, the little prisoner's dilemma between, you know, oh, do I try to trade with this person or are they going to fight me? And players, again, really like collecting resources, making lots of these pairs and then spending them and improving their deck, improving their character. So there's a lot of good stuff here now, and I think it's actually past most of the problems that I started out with. And now, of course, I have a new problem, is how to implement that long-term strategy. So I'll get back to you whether I solve that or not, and we'll see. Thank you.